All right, good morning, everyone. Let's do it. U.S. markets had quite a wild session. I think on that chart you can't even see flatline there. We opened down quite a bit on the day. We made quite a really solid rally on the Dow and the S&P on the back of Fed President Dudley saying that the Fed had fallen short of its inflation and employment objectives. And I think it kind of temporarily put the potential brakes on the tapering thoughts of the market. We also saw another steep sell-off in the Shanghai market, which has really just continued to get worse even after it entered into bear market territory yesterday. Asia really has made a turnaround late in the day. I'll talk about that in a second, but you can see there that's China stocks there. At the end of the day, we had a little bit of a reversal, but Barclays and HSBC and Goldman Sachs came out yesterday and cut their growth projections for China to 7.4%. So I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen such a downdraft there. The one thing that I will note about the Asian markets is we've seen a absolutely huge turnaround to the upside here. We had the Hang Seng that was down over 2% only about 2 hours ago, and now it's up 0.6%. It pretty much goes across the board for a lot of markets. I mean, the Nikkei was down almost 2% also about an hour and a half ago. It's only down 0.72% now. All the European markets are really showing some real strength at the moment, and I think it's really significant the way they're finishing the day today. So we've got to remember that coming into our trading day today, the strength that the Asian markets have finished with. All right, we had Naspers that were out with full year numbers this morning. Revenues were up 27%. That was a slight beat at 50.2 billion. Estimates were for 49.98 billion. Net income, adjusted net income, was at 8.53 billion. The expectation was for 8, so it was a nice beat there. Earnings per share really came in pretty much right in line. Guidance was around 22.20. It came in around at 22.16, and Bloomberg expectations were at 21.44. Divi per share, we've seen a couple different forecasts on Divi, but looks like kind of came in small in line, maybe a 10-cent miss. So I think all in all, relatively good numbers for Naspers on the day. We also had Harmony that was raised to equal weight versus underweight at Morgan Stanley, which is quite impressive. Anybody upgrading a gold share in this environment? All right, and the market data out today. We've got lots of stuff out. We've got leading indicators here that come out right at the open. We've got retail sales out of Italy. We've got in Europe we've got Draghi and Merkel that are speaking in Berlin. And then all the rest of the data is out in the States. We've got tons of stuff. Durable goods, house price index, Case-Shiller home price index, Richmond Fed, consumer confidence, and new home sales. So I don't think there's anything really important, really big in terms of data today, though. So I think we're going to focus mainly on is going to be the action, see if we can finally start to find a little bit of footing on our index. I mean, things have just been vertical to the downside for the last few sessions. I believe in the last 3 weeks we're down over 10%. So I think that puts it in quite a clear picture that how vicious things have been. So keep your wits about you. Markets have been really volatile. We've got stocks moving 1% and they're not even trading more than 10,000, 15,000 shares on some of the sectors. So just be very careful out there. All right, we'll jump into the maps there. All right, first thing I want to show is the FTSE. FTSE. We're going to go back to a 2-year here. Well, sorry about that. We'll leave it here. We'll kind of show there is some support that we're coming up on FTSE. Which is really right at where we closed in yesterday's session. You can see there, if we bounce back to a little bit longer term, we can look at the 2-year. We can see we also right at more or less right at that same sort of level in terms of trendline support. I mean, there's lots of different ways that you can draw support over here as well. I mean, you could look at something like that. that could be very relevant as well. But I think we're really starting to get into this risk range here on the FTSE. There's definitely a few little levels of support that we're coming up on, and I think it's worth noting we've had a big reversal this morning. Since I've sat down, I've seen over 50 points on the FTSE future this morning to the upside. So we're really starting to gain some traction there in Europe right now. All right, let's look at copper. Copper is really breaking down now. We're breaking down below a huge level here. No matter how you look at it, on closes or on wicks, I mean, we definitely dropped the level. If you see, if we were to take from the top of this channel, which is a nice little triple top that we had up here, that was at 338, and we're dropping support at 307. So we could be looking at 31 cents to the downside from this 307 level, which would really put us down deep here, even below 280 on copper. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it there. I mean, we were below 3 this morning. I think the whole China story is obviously wiping some of these guys out. And there's big rumors at the moment in China that through a lot of the shadow banking and things like that, they're starting to call some of these loans. A lot of these guys are lending, against huge stockpiles of copper and other, pieces of physical inventory. So I think this could get a little bit uglier before we start to see a bounce in the copper market. All right, let's look at Harmony. All right, Harmony, we'll shorten this up a little bit as well. Harmony really, I mean, in my mind, it had dropped support already a couple sessions ago, which we talked about right there. But yesterday was important because we did close below 35. 35 was the previous closing low. So, on a horizontal basis, we also dropped support. This thing, I know that you got to, upgrade to equal weight or whatever out of Morgan Stanley, big whoop this morning, but at 42, we're talking about dropping a level, let's call it 36. I mean, this thing has reasonable downside. I really think this thing can trade down to 30 Rand, which is in percentage terms, quite a long ways away from here. So watch that one closely. Obviously, last night it got hit pretty hard in the States. But these things, I think these gold shares all really technically have a hell of a lot of downside left in them. All right. Mutual, back out of Mutual here. You can see here on Mutual really kind of coming up to some sort of potential support on the 200-day moving average. There's really not a whole lot that we can look at here in terms of horizontal support that I can find. So I think what we got to look at is the fact that we're coming up right on 200-day, and that's a big support level. This thing's already corrected a hell of a lot in pounds. I mean, we're off from 223 at the top, and we're all the way down at 170. So we're talking about almost 25% that we've pulled back off the top. In Old Mutual in London. So I think really important to note that anyway, we're coming up on 200-day here locally. It could potentially hold that support level. All right, Fashini. Fashini, we're going to show here. Just wanted to kind of show that there's potentially some more room to the downside here in Fashini in terms of the targets. I mean, if we look at this breakdown that happened here, which is it's an unbelievably symmetrical setup. So you've got to really like that. I mean, we're looking at 30 Rand to downside from about the 115 level, which would put the target at $85. Then you can also look at the breakdown from this little pattern here, which also puts us with a target not significantly, but lower than where we are at the moment. Maybe at 90 Rand or at 88 Rand. And then also we've obviously had the little, shorten that up a little bit. We've had this little pattern here that's happened recently, that little continuation pattern, which would also give us a target closer to around 85. So I think whichever way you slice it, somewhere between 85 and 88 is really what our target is on Fashini Group. So just keep that in mind for you guys that are looking at that one. All right. This is CFR. CFR we showed yesterday as well. Just wanted to show that we did get that breakdown that we talked about could potentially happen yesterday. I would look at this a little bit more in terms of a horizontal basis. at this little level 84, and really puts us on a potential target. Sorry, it broke below 86 on a potential target of about 80. So we could, somewhere here between 78 and 80, we could potentially find some support on this lateral level, either somewhere here where previous highs were, fill the gap here potentially, or even potentially on this little support line here, which I really like as my favorite. So probably around $80, somewhere between maybe 78 and $80 could be a great opportunity to nibble on CFR. And with the stronger rand that we're looking at on the day today, one more day of selling in CFR, and we could get that chance. And I think that would be a good one to have a look at there. All right. Anglos, we'll show Anglos here. We've shown this one a lot the last few sessions, and we've been on the money with this one in terms of the breakdown of this pattern. It's a little bit of a tilted head and shoulder pattern in a way, but regardless, from this little pattern, we've really broke down. I think we've got significantly more downside here. I don't know necessarily that's where you would call the breakdown. I kind of like the breakdown more from about there at 215. But irrespective, I mean, we're looking at significantly lower levels. We're looking probably down to closer to 190 levels, at least on Anglos, before we start to see a real bounce there. And the last one I'm going to show is MGGT in London, aerospace company here, which really broke major support yesterday. At around 515, a nice little setup, nice little pattern that we broke down from off of maybe a little triple top there, and I think we've got to come down and test support here around 490. So just have a look at that one if you're trading offshore today. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.